if you could operate in private, would you be interested? If you could tell the government to take a hike and start operating your private grocery store, some other business or other entity, well, I hope she said yes, because we have a special guest today who is doing that and has some great stories of success. We interviewed him, I think, over a year ago now. Hey, everybody, welcome to Voluntary Living with me, David James Rodriguez. We are building a voluntary world, one relationship at a time, based on self-ownership, consent, and freedom. And we have an amazing show today. So before we get into our guest and all the great stuff that he's doing, we have Mike Collumb, the founder of Renegade Nation, and it's a joy to be with you. Welcome, Mike.
How's it going, bud? Pleasure to see you. Thanks for having me back on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. We're always trying to chat with people who are providing solutions and providing remedy to the tyranny that's going on the planet in a peaceful way. And I just thought about you because last time we spoke, you were in the beginning of a case where you have your private grocery store there in Northern California, which I've seen and toured. Is amazing, very inspiring. And I believe you were selling wine, and an undercover agent came in there and pretended to not know what's going on. And then later they filed some court issue. And so this is kind of in the middle of it when we first chat. And I wanted to find out how that case was going. And then we could talk about how we can keep our money and not pay property taxes later with all this stuff that's going on. But how's the case going? And what would you like to share with the people of where you're at, and what an amazing saga for you to go on?
Yeah, you bet. So it's pretty interesting. If we go through life as peaceful non-combatants, right? And that's really that's how we proceed forward, right? And in that, if we every day just understand that, I'm a Christian, so I'm a lover of the Lord, and I travel through my life as a peaceful non-combatant. Sometimes you got to get, mad. Doesn't mean you don't, right? But you do things that, that are correct, that God would like, right? What our common law would like, right? Inside of those. So those are our real laws, right? We only have two laws: God's laws and Satan's laws. And so everybody kind of knows the story. Vanessa opened a grocery store about 3 years ago now. And it just hit off crazy right off the bat. We had over 700 members in a matter of a couple months. We had events here on the property with 700 plus people on our property. And we did the Rise Tour. We did some private charity fundraising events. Yeah, we had some other private events, and we had a lot of people here and running hard. Yeah, my wife and I, a few years ago, we bought into a winery. So we owned half this winery in our Nevada County, in our community. And it is, completely, I'd say legitimate in the public standpoint, right? So it's a public legitimate company. Had the proper licensing, permitting, conditional use permit, the proper alcohol permits with the state of California, all that kind of stuff. So we took and we opened a grocery store, and in that, within a couple of days, this county attacked us. And Vanessa, she fought him off, and she basically told them that we're a private membership association. We don't play in your jurisdiction. We're in the private domain. We're not in the public domain. Explain to them, the differences between that. They didn't really care. They wanted to continue with this, cease and desist order.
Right.
And Vanessa told them, basically piss off, go away. I'm going to have you arrested. And then she sent the order back to the county for fraud. Right. And so the county understood that they couldn't mess with us on our ranch, right, and us as people. So they got mad and they sent us to basically the state. And the state sent out this bozo that came out, and he pretended like he was going to be our neighbor and, moving to Nevada County and all this stuff. And he sat in here and talked up, and I got his whole thing on audio. It's pretty hilarious to listen to him. So he went through the process. Vanessa explained to him, this is a private membership association. You have to become a member in order to be able to be in our association. So he said, oh yeah, no problem. We'll do that. That sounds great. So he proceeded forward, and he basically he joined a membership and bought a bottle of wine. And then, interestingly enough, this bonehead, he signs this paper, our document, our membership agreement. I'm going to read you. This is basically item number 10 in there. I entered into this in agreement of my own free will without any pressure or coercion. I affirm that I do not represent any state, local, or federal agency whose purpose is to regulate or approve products or services, or to carry out any mission of enforcement, entrapment, or investigation. He signed this. So basically, I'm I'm probably going to sue him. I'm not really sure yet. We're still debating that, but for breach of contract, right? In which I have every right to do that. And I can sue his department. I can sue the state of California. I can sue our county. But anyway, this guy, he signed this document. And in such, then he took the alcohol, the bottle of wine, took it back to basically their evidence locker, came back a couple weeks later and did it one more time, and got some more audio. And so then with this, we received a letter from the state of California, and basically the letter said, and actually this wasn't from the state, this was from our district attorney in Nevada County. It said that we need to appear in court. This is subpoena to go to court. And don't bother calling us and asking us why, because we won't tell you. And this is verbatim of what the document said. So I kind of got a kick out of that. It was pretty funny, actually. And so, I showed up to court. We had about 50 people on the court steps that day. It was right during the middle of mask wearing season. And Vanessa and I we don't play that game. So we're on the court steps and we're going through this and we're sitting there and it becomes our turn. And the judge, who I know the judge, not on a personal level, but I've known him for years. He knows who I am. And he comes on and we're sitting there talking and he tells me that, he starts talking about the case. And I said, well, first of all, I didn't know I'm here. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I go, well, I received this letter and I read him the letter that said, don't bother asking us. And he was appalled. He said, well, that's not any good. He said, so he told the bailiff to bring down the court demand. So he brought it down. I read it. I said, okay, that's cool. Yeah. I kind of figured that's what this was for, but
what was the charge again?
Curious for selling alcohol in our grocery store.
Okay.
Right. So we took wine from our winery and Vanessa and I purchased the wine ourselves. And then we turned around and sold it to our grocery store. And that way it wouldn't affect the winery whatsoever. There was no winery to grocery store sale. So we ran it through like that. So everything's legitimate. And when we first did the PMA grocery store, I knew at that point in time that I was going to do this with alcohol. I knew that right away. So I set ourselves up to be in court to do this exact very, very same thing, right? I knew that we were going to be there. I knew that's what I wanted. And I wanted to take it to court to have a jury trial, to have a case precedence, because I really believe in my heart 100% that I would win and that I was right and they were wrong, and that we would be able to show that across the country. So when they reached out, it wasn't a shock to me, and I really didn't care. I was actually excited about it. So we took the opportunity to talk to the judge, and he wanted me to sign some stuff. And I said, no, I'm not signing this. I'm not signing this. So basically, I told him I wouldn't sign a bunch of stuff. And he goes, Mike, I got to make sure that you come back to court. And I go, I appeared today because you guys asked me to be here. And if we set a date, I'll be back. And he goes, oh, okay. So we set up a date and, we returned. When we returned, it was a different judge. And we got into this thing. And at that point in time, I hired an attorney, somebody who teaches constitutional law here in town. And not really constitutional law. She teaches constitution classes, way different than constitutional law, even though she's an attorney. And so I hired her. I figured it'd be a good bet and a good program to have her do that. Excuse me. And about $10,000 into it, I realized she didn't know anything. She's still stuck in the bar. She had no idea what was going on. So I fired her in court one day, and the judge kind of freaked out a little bit, and basically, counseled me not to do that, and that I was going to go. I'm going up against an experienced prosecutor, and have you ever had any legal training, or you gone to school, or are you an attorney, And then the whole thing, and she goes, well, I need to think about whether I'm going to let you do this or not. And I go, no, it's my constitutional right that I get to do this. It's not, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you that's what I'm doing.
The judge said that.
Yeah, and it's like, you're not in control whether I get to represent myself or not. You have nothing to do with it.
Right.
Yeah. So she didn't really like that a whole bunch, but she knew that I was right. So we go forward in this, and during this period of time, she didn't understand that I'd already taken a bunch of classes, both constitutional law classes and then also bar law classes, how to activate and go through the court system, to basically represent myself. So we get in this first piece, and I as soon as I took it over, I filed the motion to dismiss. And because in my first thing to the judge before we even got to that point is I told her, we didn't have any due process. You guys didn't tell us what we're doing. I've never been subpoenaed. I'd never been, you guys never sent me anything in the mail. There was nothing at all. And then, so there's no due process. And she agreed with that. And she said, well, that's what this is going to be for. We're going to go through that. So I put in my motion to dismiss. And the one I did, I gave the exact same letter to both the DA and then also to the court. And then, but the DA, I sat down and I had an extra document I gave the DA, and basically I went through a bunch of the UCC requirements, and there's like 214, 221, 222, something like that. And basically they're telling that attorney, that district attorney, that she's not protected under a rule of law. So I got into that with her and told her, you continue to violate my constitutional rights, I'm going to sue you. And so what we did was, when we went back to court, the attorney, she didn't like that whole thing. So she tells the judge, well, he didn't give us the same document he gave you. And I said, excuse me, I did. I gave the same document. I gave you an extra paper that showed you that I'm going to sue you for violating my constitutional rights. And I didn't give one to the judge yet because I hadn't decided if I was going to do that or not. And then so the judge goes, well, we have a process here. Everyone has to have their due process, including the court, and you have to file things correctly. And I laughed at it. I said, this is what you guys didn't do for me, and here I am in front of you, so it works for you and not for me. I said, this is a joke. I mean, it was. It's a joke. Are you guys kidding me now?
Yeah.
And so we went forward. We got through that spot of it, and they asked me if I would take, and I would just, do a plea bargain with the DA. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not going to plead with anything. I said, I'm going to take this to trial. I want a jury trial, and that's where we're going with it. So she kind of argued against it. The DA kind of argued against it. Well, this is taking too long. And the DA stuff, this is taking too long. At this point in time, we're already playing over a year in this thing, right?
Wow.
And just because every time they give us, 5 minutes in court, it takes 3 months to set something up.
Yeah,
it really does. And then, so we get there. And finally, okay, we're going to have a court trial, and we're going to select a jury. And we set up this, basically it's a pretrial conference.
Yep.
And that's, we're just supposed to tell the judge, yeah, we're ready to go. And, we're going to go forward. So we wait our 6 months for our pretrial conference or whatever it is. And we go in there, and we have a different judge in place. And so, well, what happens is in my motion to dismiss, it was all based on constitutional stuff, right? I had a bunch of like 15 different constitutional, basically Supreme Court cases as well that protect what I'm doing, what we're doing as a freedom community.
Which is building in the private, selling products in the private.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution says that we have the right and ability to have unlimited business contracts, period.
Yeah.
Free from the state and or our neighbor. Free from interference. And
is that the one where it says no state shall pass a law impairing the obligation of contracts?
That's a different one. Yeah,
that's a different one. Okay,
yeah, that's a different one. But yeah, there's a bunch of them, and I had some in there, right? In it, yeah. There's it's crazy the powerful things that we have in our our grasp to be able to use. So the judge asked the DA, well, do you have a chance to go over it? And she goes, yeah, I did, but quite honestly, those are all laws that we don't use anymore. I couldn't do anything but laugh. I had to laugh because it's so laughable. It's a joke.
My gosh.
And I looked at her and I laughed. I laughed at the DA. I mean, it's like, you're kidding me.
Right.
And I asked her, who are you to decide that a law isn't a law, especially when it comes down from the Supreme Court? This is the Supreme Court ruling law case that says it's the law. It's from our Constitution, which is the law. And then she's freaking out. And then the judge, she goes, well, I tend to agree with it. Those are really old laws. And I go, yeah, they're also constitutional laws. And I object. And I'm appealing this case, and I'm going to take it to a real court. And then she said, well, you have every right to do that. And I go, I know, and that's what I'm going to do. And so then we waited our 6 months to go back to court, and we go to court, and then it's a different judge. Super, super sweet. She was really, really nice lady. I really liked her.
Third judge in the case now.
Yeah, this is the third judge, and we're on the fourth DA at this point. Yeah, jeez. I'm not kidding. And she, this judge, she starts talking to me, and she's super, super nice. I like her. She could tell that she's not the same place as the other people, and we realized that she's the head judge. She's in charge. And what happened was the court realized what we were doing finally. And they understood that we're going and we're fighting basically our Constitution with Supreme Court rulings. And they understand that we're going to push it through to a jury trial and that we're going to win. And if we lost for some reason, we would appeal it and take it to a higher court. And basically the whole system said, we can't have them do that because we don't want a case precedence in California to sell alcohol. So they threw it out. So the judge, she asked me, she goes, so have you talked to the DA and tried to, amicably, come to an agreement? And I go, I've got no problem with that whatsoever. All she has to do is write me an apology letter and then drop the case and I'm good. And the DA, she's, she is freaking out. She's having a fit. She's throwing stuff at her desk and she's, come unglued. And the judge looks at me and she looks at her and she goes, well, that doesn't look like that's going to happen. And she goes, however, what I'm going to do is I'm throwing this out. And now the DA really lost it. And she leans forward in her desk and she looks at the DA and she says, excuse me. She goes, this is what I'm doing and I don't need your permission.
The judge tells the DA.
Yep. End of story. We're done.
Wow.
Yep. And that was it. We're done. We're out. And
Amazing.
We can sell alcohol in our grocery store. With that, I know that because we won this case, the county is never going to come after me again. I could do whatever I want in that building. And I can't see them coming after me for anything that we're doing inside there.
Amazing.
They're just not, they're in a place where they understand that I'll endure the test of time with them and I'll take it to my constitution. Excuse me. And we'll beat them. That's
right. So once they realized that you were all in and your intention was to set precedent for California, they basically said, okay, we don't want to play those high level stakes.
Yep.
And just case dismissed, charge selling alcohol without license, dismissed, all gone.
Everything gone.
Wow. And when was that?
Oh gosh, it's been 6 months now, 6, 7, 8 months, something like that.
Wow. Congratulations. First of all, that's very exciting, very powerful.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was a great day. So me, okay, I'm, because we had the opportunity to say no. To some extent, I think they would have thrown it out anyway. I don't think they would have let us really, but excuse me. Vanessa was done. She got tired of going up there and playing.
Yeah.
And me, I to set that precedence, what I wanted to begin with. I played with them for years if I had to, right? That wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
But it's good. We're done and we can do whatever we want to in there. And I think that's precedence enough, right? We didn't get a jury trial precedence like we wanted. Certainly not a Supreme Court case deal, which would have been amazing for the entire country. But I'll take what we got and what we got strong enough for me to act and go forward with what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Be free to operate your business and continue. So are you guys still doing the grocery store, I hope?
So we have the grocery store and we also have a healing center.
Oh, you got that going. Oh, yeah, because that thing was right there in the big building. You're like, here's going to be, oh, man, I wish I should ask for some photos or something. You could show it or maybe you can.
I'll send you some.
Put some links on it. Yeah, how's all that going? Because the grocery store, I don't know, was it 300, 400 square feet?
And 500 square feet for the grocery store. And then the healing center is, almost 3,000 square feet. And then we have a full gym in there now that's a couple thousand square feet. And then the rest of the building, we're looking at probably renting some spots out for other practitioners.
Wow. What type of healing services are you providing there now?
Sure. So right now we're waiting for Vanessa to finish school. She's got about 6 months to be done. Mm-hmm. And then we'll actually do our opening now. She's helping people right now, friends and family, and some people just, with mostly online stuff, but we've had many people come by as well. So we have infrared sauna. We have obviously her nature path stuff that she does. Mm-hmm. We have complete frequency machines. We have infrared light machines. We have all kinds of things like that. We're actually working on. We're going to get an ozone sauna and a hyperbaric chamber. So we'll have those up and running probably within a few months. And certainly by the time we're up and running for her, to be in there full time, we'll have both of those modalities in place as well. Now we're going to have a vibration plate. We should have a vibration plate within a week or two.
Wow.
Which also it's an EMF vibration plate. Which vibration, if you don't know anything about it, it actually, when you stand on it in 20 minutes, you get like an hour workout. It actually strengthens your muscles and it strengthens all your joints and tendons and ligaments, cartilage, and then also releases your lymphatic system, which is really good for you. They're amazing. So just one of the other things, and obviously like hyperbaric and you know, the ozone saunas are incredible as well. And we have the ability, we have an IV room as well that we'll have up and running, and we'll have an RN here working where they're doing IVs.
Amazing, Mike. That's so exciting. What is the name of it going to be?
Oh, it's already named. It's the Healing Hub.
The Healing Hub.
Yeah, and so we started the Healing Hub, gosh, 3 years ago, when I've got probably 20, no, I'm 20, probably 60 different Healing Hub. We call them mini hubs across the country during COVID, and where we put nurses and doctors into PMAs. And then they went out and they started a business, and they were doing mobile help for people with COVID.
Wow, mobile.
Yeah, it was a big help. One of them's got like, I don't know, and she got a whole bunch. She's in Oregon. She got a bunch of nurses that work for her. And then they're all mobile. She's still doing all that mobile today, and she's running a great practice with that. Which is awesome.
Wow, a naturopath on wheels?
Yeah, we got MDs on wheels. We got nurses on wheels. We got all that on wheels. Yeah, you bet. All over the country.
Wow, man. I love to talk about that more. Is there are they on the Renegade Nation website, or where can people find these people?
There. So my Renegade Nation website is a sad story. I spent a whole bunch of money, thousands and thousands of dollars, to get it up and running, and then we had a corruption on it. And then the corruption wiped it down, and we rebuilt it to a certain point where it's all inherent there now and it all functions, except for the plugin that we put in with everybody's membership in there, with a map of the country, with everybody where they're at. And the lady I had help me to build at this point, she's went dark on me, and I need to go find somebody that can actually do that service for me now, and get that up and running, because I'm tired of it not being running. That's effectively what I wanted, was being able to have anybody go to, like in my map here of the country, and just click on a state, click on a county, and go dive in and see every single thing that's available in that part of the country. So that's, I need to get that up and running. It's been a sore subject for me for a while.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. It's not easy to change the world and be the leader of all the new paradigms and new systems. But I'm very encouraged to hear that there's other like mobile healers on wheels, because that's, I think, whatever next scam they got coming, in my opinion, is going to be something totalitarian or whatever. But it's going to be, we need the independent food, water, energy, health, and maybe even like shelter and clothing and these types of things. So you're a visionary on the food aspect of it, which is the independent grocery store, which is so exciting, and now the healing centers. So that's amazing. I mean, I think this is where it's going. I mean, what do you see happening? Because you've been in the trenches and you've been kind of seeing where everything is. Here we are, March 2024. What do you see happening, and the importance of, I guess, the stuff that you're doing? I mean, you're going all in again. This is what you want other people to consider doing or learning from you guys? I mean, it sounds like you're on the kind of the cutting edge of solutions for the people.
Well, I think that, there are, I've almost got about 1,000 PMAs across the country today that I've helped people create.
Nice.
And probably 75 to 80% of them are in the medical field. And with that being said, we have a lot of that. We need thousands and thousands and thousands more across the country. Right. So every little community has multiple places just like ours for people to be able to get help. Right. Because I live in a community. Yeah, we have 100,000 people in my county. Right. My town only has, 16,000 people in it. But there's that need across the entire country, both for food, which we're seeing a lot of food places pop up, and both for food, medical, and then education. Those are our three primary things that we need to have continued, that they attacked the hardest, right?
Yeah.
They tried doing all three of those things to be able to basically make the people collapse. I see right now is that we're in the girlfriend stage right now, the honeymoon stage, where we're not, everything's fine and dandy right now. Things are going on. Sure, our interest rates are up pretty high. We have, a slug in the White House, that everybody kind of ignores, and we really don't care about that. I don't even look at that stuff anymore. I don't listen to the news, and I think there's a lot of people out there that do the same thing. I listen to current events and they see things that are inside of our community, and that's what attracts my attention and my time. I don't have time for the rest of the garbage, because that's all it is. It's just a show. It's just garbage. It's just theatrics, and I'm not interested in it. So with that being said, I think that we are in a spot right now where they're trying to get everybody to relax again before they hit another wave. And I think that when you talk around the freedom community, you're going to find that a lot, that most people are in that agreement that, you know, that first phase was the light one. I think whatever's coming next is going to be bigger. And we'll see. Time will tell, right? Yeah, we'll see how that plays out and how it runs out. I just know that we're prepared, you know, for that if it happens, in any aspect, right? As far as that goes, we've got our food and our health right here, bound down in on our property that we live on, right? Which is works for us pretty well. So we don't need permission from anybody to do anything we want to do. You know, and then life goes on, and then we kind of just bear through it, and we're seeing things and fighting the things that we want to fight and seeing the things we want to see. We don't go protest anymore. It's all that for me, it's a waste of time. There's no productivity in that as far as I'm concerned. Those things aren't going to change. We've seen huge protests and thrown lots of money and time and protesting different things, and there's nothing there. It counts about as much as our fake vote does today on a national level, right?
That's right. It's the great self-ownership awakening is what I call it, which is we're starting to realize that, hey, I'm responsible for me, you're responsible for you, and let's work out a win-win relationship that we can get together and make some solutions, because the politicians obviously have sold their souls and have no interest in doing what's right or upholding their oath or like anything in honor that they're supposed to do. It's actually the people out here doing it that are the real heroes, in my opinion, the people that are building the solutions. We mentioned earlier you were at the Exit and Build Land Summit last year. I was there the year before, and I love that solution, that strategy of exit the systems, build what we want to see. And that seems to be like a real remedy to what's going on, because begging permission, I agree. I stopped protesting and doing these things because they don't care. They're going to do what they're going to do. And they gave us a good run for the money for the jab and the forced jab. And some places did the vaccine passport, like in San Francisco, but the public support's not there. They've lost control of the media in general, and people are starting to really come up and realize these guys have a negative agenda, and Agenda 2030 or People 25 or whatever they're trying to do to put chips inside of us and enslave us. Like, people are like, no, we're not going to participate, and you're going to have to basically force it on us. And I think that's where the independence is critical. You know, like what I've heard Schwab or these other people talk about is a cyber attack where the power grid goes down, and they say it so subtly, like Bill Gates did before about these things. And it's like, I think they're trying to cover their karma or something, but they're saying it. And I mean, want to talk about what you see as a potential risk as the power grid or the internet going down? I mean, this is all they have now, right? Like, they've lost control of the mind of the jabs in general, but these guys are in a like backed into a corner, it feels, and everything is on the table. So what do you think about the power grid going down, or whatever next thing they're going to do?
Power grid going down, I mean, that's if they flex that little bit of control. People are resourceful. You know, we have a lot of people with solar and battery backup, and there's ways to go around that. We have a remedy for that. That's not a big issue. As far as the internet going down, they can't control the internet. They lost control of that when it started, right? They don't own it. They don't control it. They can't have people shut up. They can go down and they can raid a bunch of the different server farms, right, and turn those down or whatever. But that would be such an uproar with something like that. You know, we're talking about those types of events that are so far in your face. That's like Civil War stuff going on, right? And I don't think they're prepared to do that. I don't think that's their intention. I think they're going to slowly just take, well, I mean, like the deep state, you know, like those families that, you know, own and run our countries. You know, when I say countries, not just ours, but all of them.
The banksters.
They don't have intent to do that. They're just going to slowly just take everything away, and make their whole idea of how to take over is to make everybody slave. They've done a pretty good job at it. People will say, well, what are they going to do next? You know, well, they already did it. You're already their slave. Until you understand that you're their slave and look for ways to get out of that and actually do actionable events to remove yourself from their system, you are just a slave. And it's sad, because they did a really good job with that. Masterminds, right? So as far as the internet going down, that can happen. Main grid power across the United States, they might play with a little bit here and there. Yeah, in California, they've already done that. You know, we already in vastly have seen that happen multiple times with not only, you know, having that happen, but then also intentional burnings, right?
Yeah.
You know, we know that, you know, they've got stuff out there that they burn intentionally, cities that they burn intentionally. You know,
Yeah.
in my opinion, they burn friggin' Maui on purpose, right?
Yeah.
That's, we all see those events and those things they're doing. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, those things I think will continue to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a broader range.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just everybody needs to just figure out how to hunker down and take care of yourself and make sure your stocks are up. Now, are we going to get to the point where, you know, some people, they think they're going to have to go live, you know, in the mountains somewhere? Yeah, I don't see that really happening at some point. You know, maybe not during my lifetime, maybe later on something happens. I don't know. Can't forecast that piece of it, but yeah,
Sure.
I think it's not as bad as what some people might think it might get to.
Mm-hmm.
And they might throw another sickness at us. Well, not might. I'm sure there's a time when they do that. I really believe that they're spraying stuff on different communities today. We see the you know, the streams every day, right? They're out there.
Yeah.
We see that crap they put on us every day, poisoning us, poisoning our crops, poisoning our forest, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and we've got, I don't know if you know who Renette Senum is or not.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Renette's a really good friend of mine and my wife's, and she's running right now in parallel with somebody else as a team, trying to expose some of the stuff that they're doing with those things. So
Yeah. She has a
she's doing it.
lawsuit, right? Wasn't she suing somebody or the federal
They're,
government or something, the
yeah,
state?
they've done a few different places. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're intensifying it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because people are starting to realize, hey man, this is not natural up here. And you know, aluminum is no neurotoxin. Like, what's going on around here,
No,
guys?
graphite oxide just doesn't normally fall out of the atmosphere, right?
Yeah. Right. Like these things are just so profoundly open for people with eyes to see, and the
Yeah.
people who don't, it's just kind of like they don't want to look at it. And maybe it's because they don't want to come up with some type of remedy or solutions to it. But that's always my question is like, okay, they're spraying that stuff. It seems like we need to detox our bodies, detox
Oh, you
our
do.
soil.
Oh, there's,
You know, yeah, what are your suggested solutions for, uh, you know, the chemtrails that they're spraying? Any particular, you know,
well,
path?
everybody needs to do a metal detox all the time. You know,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be done, you know, 24/7, 365. It's on and off type structure, and just get with a nature path, yeah, or a holistic doctor that can help you through those. But you need to do a metal detox. You need to do detoxing all the time because that stuff's out there. It's inherently there, and it's not going to stop. They won't finish. They won't stop doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to get that stuff out of your body.
Right. Yes. I saw one interview from a pilot. I'm trying to track down the interview, but he basically said, as a pilot spraying this stuff, he knows what's going on, but he says they're telling us we're spraying these metal particulates to reflect the sunlight back to space to protect, to stop global warming.
It's such crap. It's like, how stupid do they really think people are?
Oh man. They think
So,
we are
here we are. All right. So let's think about that statement for a minute. So obviously, you know, carbon, you know, creates global warming, and then we're taking jets and just putting them up there everywhere and using that carbon to be able to travel to spray this crap out that's going to reflect our global warming. Come on, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is the compartmentalization because you're like, how do all these pieces work? Well, they lie to everybody, and the left doesn't know what the right's doing. They block the science and the, you know, these types of things from the people who are just doing their job. And I think we're living in the age of truth and information, and now people are starting to question it, not just like in the corner, you know, at the you know, in your job or something, but like mass civilization communities. People are like, hey, what the heck's going on around here? And that's why it's so important, the stuff that you're doing, and other people, like, it's time to take action and time to find solutions that are not dependent on politicians. They're not dependent on anybody out there. We got to get fully independent, and then it doesn't matter what they do. They can shut down everything, but as long as we have our community and relationships and these food and energy and healing things, we're going to get through it, because it's like almost a new phase in human consciousness, a new phase of freedom where we want to be left alone, and we don't need your guys' permission to be here. We can make contracts where we exclude you from our matters. And then what are you going to do? You know, I think that's like one of the great things you did is you made the contract. So you mentioned you were going to sue him. Would you sue the undercover agent because, like you said, breach of contract of he signed the agreement and he lied? And what is that, state court, or is that a federal court, or how would that
it would start in just a regular inferior superior court, right? Just a regular, that's where you would file the documents to do that, just in the inferior superior court.
And so that was just at the local county level?
Yeah, the local county level.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when will you know if you're going to do anything about that?
My wife and I, we pray about it a lot, and we're thinking about it. So I don't like suing people, and I've had many opportunities in my life being, messed around by people to sue people, and I've always chose not to. So I'm not sure on that yet, but yeah, we'll get back with you on that. We'll see.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I sued the federal government last year for
that would be different, right? And maybe I'll sue the state, right, for employing the guy that broke my contract. But I think it burns better if I go right to him, because then they can see, okay, it starts helping. Let me just look at something really quick. I'm gonna read something to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's basically, here we go. It's USC 241, 242. 271 and 1983, and those are all USC basically things, conspiracy against rights, deprivations of rights under color of law, which is 242. Clerk is to file, that's a different one. The civil action for deprivation of rights. So the thing is that they're not color of law doesn't work when they violate a constitutional protection. That which means we can go after them personally. So and breach of contract. This guy breached the contract. Whether he did it for work or not, doesn't matter. He breached the contract, and he signed the contract that stated he wasn't there to do those things. Right. And he did them anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, that guy needs to pay for it. And that's my opinion on, that's the part of me that wants to go after him and sue him for it. Yeah. So. Right.
And I think that you probably get a lot of public support in that matter too, because I was listening, I think it was maybe Joel Salatin or somebody was saying like the PMAs don't have a whole bunch of case law. So it's kind of like, your case would have been amazing to go to the Supreme Court to set that, precedent. So there's some people that are like, I don't know, they're still kind of new. And of course, I'm still learning about these things. But for him to have a contract with you, and I would say that's criminal intent, because he knowingly, willingly lied on the agreement.
Went into the contract knowing he was going to lie before he signed it.
Yes, correct. Where he could have said, no, I can't sign it, or can we cross this out? Or, he could have done anything, but to sign the agreement now binds him to that. So yeah, that would be very interesting to see how that could go.
And that's the part where they all think the color of law protects them and they can do whatever they want to do. And that's the problem with what they're doing today with our servants. The civil servants think they can do whatever they want to do and they're covered. Yes. And they're protected, and they're not. And that's the part of me that wants to say, okay, that's enough. I'm going after them, right?
Yeah.
So we'll know that pretty soon whether I want to do that or not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever you choose is great. You're doing a great job out there, leading the way and, being a pioneer in this type of world, because we need solutions, and getting a new puppet in there, or, even on a state level, sometimes it's like, there was was election yesterday, March 5th. Right. And I was watching with my buddy, and, he participates in the electoral politics, and God bless him. But I said, the senator shows up and the congressman and these I said, these are all your representatives. They don't know your name. You've never met them, but they are representing you. Yep. And it's like, when you contrast it like that, it's like, how about I can advocate for myself and I will engage whoever I want to engage with. But I don't know what your talk on or take on the political season. It's the election season, and they've gone hard at Trump, over the years, and It's just a clown show. You said you don't watch it, but you think anything is going to happen this fall that the audience should be aware of, or any craziness that you see happening?
They've already decided the outcome of the election.
They already have. All right, let's hear
They've already
it.
decided all the backroom deals have already been done. They already know
Okay.
exactly what's going to happen. It's according to their plan, not the Democrats' plan, not the Republicans' plan, but the deep state's plan, whom both the Democratic and Republican Party are puppets to. So they've already told them who's going to win, how it's going to lay out, the whole thing. Yeah, they already told them which states need to go and lie and cheat on their ballot systems to make it look like they won. Yeah, they already all that stuff's already they already know all that stuff. They got it all dialed in. They're there to do what they want to do, and that's control everything. Yeah,
Right.
and it's not going to change. So
Yeah.
it's sad to say that and know that with certainty, but we've seen it happen too many times. We already know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to let anything. Yeah, it's going to be a shame.
Are they going to let Trump win? Or, I mean, I don't know how people could think that Biden beat Trump. I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight. I want to be free, and Biden seems to be a globalist and Trump seems to be a nationalist. And, they both made errors and things. But, like, to think that this guy who can barely walk and get his sentence out is in charge of anything. And
It's a joke. It's a joke on the United States. It makes all every other country in the world laughs at us. Every time
yes.
they hear about the United States, they think about Biden being our president, and then we're the dummies in the United States voted him in to be a president, and they laugh.
Right.
It's like, you look at Putin over there and just like Russia laughs at us. What a joke, right? And as well as so many other countries. We're a joke right now today. It's a joke. It's a clown show.
Yeah, I wonder is because the system seems to be very rigged. So I don't know how they did it in 2000. It looks like they were, I don't know, stuffing the ballots in the ballot box or something. The documentary 2000 Mules, I think, that made a great argument. But anyways, yeah, the politics is going on. It's just nice to get an interesting take, someone in the ring, in the arena, because it's up to us. We're the ones we've been waiting for, and to share these ideas and to be healthy and strong and as abundant as we can be, and to think about the children. These are the areas that you're working on as well. So you mentioned the gym and you have your property. It's a beautiful property over there. What type of community stuff are you guys doing? Are you gathering online or in person, or what do you think? What do you see happening here in the spring or summer for building community and preparing ourselves for preparation?
I think on the whole, outside of your national events that you go to look at and speak at or just enjoy, the rest of the country is asleep again.
Yes. I wanted to ask you about that because this was an issue with the grocery store. So inspiring to see the grocery store. And then you said, yeah, right when they shut down or required masks to go shopping in your area, then you and your wife invested and made the space. And then once they took the mask order off, the people went back to the grocery stores that were using extortion or coercion on them.
Well, they're closer. It's more convenient. They're bigger. Their selections are bigger. The pricing, some items can be cheaper. Our stuff was pretty well priced. But it's that whole idea of the bigger store, get everything in one place. And that's the comment we heard the most. Well, we can get everything in one place. And it's amazing because people who were literally abused and arrested at a grocery store in Nevada County ended up coming to us, and and we helped them, made them members, and then right after masks were off, they went right back up to be abused some more. And then they're asleep. They're sheep running through from day one to day two of their lives, and they're not in control of their life. And they use excuses of time and money to make whatever is easier for themselves to live, rather than sacrificing something that's maybe easier for you to do that may cost a little bit more money to go do something that'll improve your life. And we sold only organic stuff, and they're back up buying groceries from the regular stores.
Yeah,
whatever. I mean that's when we started the store. We kind of anticipated that its growth, and we could have started off. We got a 20,000 square foot building. We could have started off in a big part of it, and we kind of just wanted to see it through and see what happened with it. And we went from the 700 members, we still have, members, we probably still have, 500 something members. But they just most of them don't shop here anymore. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
And you would say that's because in their mind, they're saying it's more convenient over here. I can get it over here. Maybe the cost is a little bit less over here. So they have, again, forsaken or forsook their freedom for convenience. And this seems
yeah,
to be the dichotomy or the battle in life.
right. And then as soon as we get another shutdown or something like that happens, then they would be right back at our door, right, with the grocery store. And we're, you know, if we're still in this property and still in California at that point in time, if something happens like that, then, you know, we'll be here to do that. But, you know, we'll see how the next few years roll,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what
Yeah.
what our general plan is to what we're going to do in life. So are we going to be here the rest of our life? We're not really sure. Are we going to be
Yeah.
here 5 years? We're not sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
we already sold our, you know, we already bought another property in South Dakota and we were moving, you know, we were put our place up for sale and a whole bit and then
Mm-hmm.
pulled it off to do the grocery store. And that's why we stayed. And then because of the grocery store is why I started doing PMAs and trust and
Mm-hmm.
ROEs and all the rest of the things that we're doing today, which has been great. But yeah, we wouldn't have done those things if we didn't stay. But we don't need to stay here any longer. But we're here. Yeah, I in California, you know, you look at some of the things in California, and quite honestly, if you're a taxpayer in California, you know, you're sinning. To give California state income tax is a sin. It
Mm.
really is. You look at the stuff and the bills that they passed, the monstrosities that they passed,
Mm.
right? In the name of the people of California, it's like you guys are jokes. Yeah,
Mm.
you know, prostitution is legal in California. You know,
Mm.
you can have sex with someone who's under 18 years old as long as you're not 10 years apart. Believe that. It's a law. You can do that. They passed it.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So they made sex with minors legal as long as you're not 10 years older than them. I'm just like, what part of underage doesn't become underage anymore? Right.
Yeah.
It just, and I'm sad they perverted these things so bad. Yeah. And every time I travel somewhere and we talk about taxes in California, if you're in California, you pay taxes, you're sinning. That's my
That's a great angle, Mike. I've never heard that one. That's a great angle because um, we're funding evil and or funding immorality or funding these things. And this is, I think, a great transition because at the end of our last conversation, we talked about property taxes. And it's like, for me in the education world, the property taxes are a big part of the school system. And the school system is where they're teaching immorality and perversion and forcing the jabs on. I mean, it's, you know, it's so unacceptable and intolerable in my opinion. I don't know why parents are continuing to put their kids in the system other than, like, you know, for your customers
convenience,
who,
and that's all we know. And some systems are going to be good. Some teachers are good. Obviously, you're always going to have good and bad. But yeah, that's another big sore subject in, you know, our school system, right? And that's one of the things they want to take control over. California, you know, you have to be vaccinated to be in the public school system. Period.
That's right.
There's no exemptions. You know, it's crap. Even in private schools, you know, we're looking at, my youngest son was vaccine injured, and we got him exemptions, and then he didn't have to. He hasn't had a vaccine since I think he was 10 months old, and because he was spent the first 10 months of his life like throwing up and sick and horrible, right?
So
Definitely
sorry.
vaccination. He's
Yeah.
fine today, no issues going through, but we stopped vaccinating him
Yeah.
and a long time ago, and we put him in private schools, and he's been there. But then when seventh grade in California, they make you, you know, they make you relook at that list, and if you're not vaccinated, then they make you get vaccinated, and then or you get another, you know, person to write you an exemption. And basically, California's scared or, you know, sue to all the doctors the way they do that for the most part. I think there's some left. I think I have one or two that I could use for that, but we're not going to vaccinate him to go to school, period.
Yep.
So that one thing could force us out of the state because the other states don't require that.
That's right. Right. And that is diabolical to say that you must inject your child, the most precious being that you've created and God has given to you, with experimental or untested or dangerous, poisonous substances that, if you can even prove that he was injured by them, with the makers of that drug is no longer liable.
Oh, they're not
Like,
they're no liability at all.
yeah. Yeah. I was shocked by the 1986 Vaccine Injury Act. I said 1986. So this is the slow boil. These dudes have such long-term range plans. They don't want to move too fast, but I couldn't believe that. It came from 1986, protecting the vaccine manufacturers. And that was kind of my big wake up call. I said, "Oh, this is serious. What these guys are doing to the
Crazy.
children."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So how to empower the children, and then at the same time, because the schools get a lot of the money from the property taxes, what have you come across, or what's our suggestions, or I'm sure this is not legal advice or medical advice, but how can somebody not pay property taxes because, like you said, it is a sin in your words, or it's immoral and criminal in my situation where, family members are on fixed incomes and they're paying $4,000 to $8,000 a year for a house that's paid off. I mean, let
Yeah.
alone the robbery and extortion, but now they're funding putting tampons in boys' bathrooms in their local school, 2 or 3 blocks away. So, can we talk about the property tax solution
Let's
if you
go.
have any suggestions or recommendations?
You bet. Well, now going back to 1933, 1941, yeah, when we became an administrative government, we used to have, before that point, we had what was called a land patent. And so basically the BLM, not the Black Lives Matter, but the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management,
Yeah.
when they were first put together, their job was to distribute the property of the United States, right? And to cut it up and chunk it out and then to give it to the people who purchased it, or they gave it away, and different things. So they did that. They made these maps and these systems, and everything had a land patent on it. All the properties did. And then they sold them, gave them away. Whatever happened to the different, they were dispersed through the country, through the people and the inhabitants. And over a period of time, our government didn't like that they didn't have any control of that, and that people owned their properties outright. And so then they took and they changed laws and they took them away. They basically stole our land patents, and then they started giving us what's called a warranty deed. So every time a property would change hands, they would take the land patent, throw it in the back, and then they would give a warranty deed to the person that was buying that property, that whoever it transferred to. And they did this in the color of night, darkness. Nobody knew what they were doing. But you can look at your warranty deed today that you have on your property, and it basically says warranty deed on it. And it also says that you're a tenant. And that's what you've changed from a landowner to a tenant. So basically, if you go back to Europe and in England, if you weren't a landowner, you didn't do anything. You had no rights whatsoever. You were, scum of the earth, right? So basically, the king was sovereign in his mind, and then in his courts, and then basically the landowners, the lords and the people that were given property or owned land, those people had rights nobody else did. So then you come back to where we are today, and part of they're taking our rights away and our, who we are as people, and not as citizens, because, a citizen is not a good thing. Being a United States citizen is not a good thing. That means that you're under their rule of thumb and under their control. And then that citizenship and those rights they give you are given to you by the court and by the state, right, and by the Fed. By
privileges, right?
When I say Fed, it's not really even the Fed, it's the United States of America Corporation, or the United States Corporation, capital U, capital S. So with that, that's our fake government that sits out there today, that, it's our quasi pretend that's who we really are. I'm a United States of American, right? I'm not a US corporation person. I'm a Californian, actually, if we break it down to that. So during this period of time when they took over all these ownerships and stole our property from us, because that's really what they did. They give us the warranty deed. Now today we don't own those, and we have now, because of that, we have state tax, property tax, annual. So what you do own is the building that's on the property, but you don't own the property. So the land's owned by the Fed, and then the money's given to the state to be able to use. So by getting a land patent and going back, and it's called a low-deal title, going back and research it. And a friend of mine actually does this. His name is Ron Gibson, lives up in Oregon, and he does land patents. And what he does with that is he goes and researches, and has you do a bunch of the work as well. And then you go back and you obtain your land patent and then your low-deal title. But then what has to happen from that point, because the counties just don't want to say, okay, oh yeah, you got that. No, you don't have to pay tax. No, you have to sue them. So then you got to go to the county level, and you got to sue the county to be able to give up that tax right. And it's been done. People do that all the time. So it works. It's a slow, long process. I haven't done it to my property yet. Not sure if I will. Probably will. I don't know. I haven't. I mean, I researched it enough to know that I'd like to. I just haven't got to that point yet in doing it. Yeah, but there's a lot of things I haven't done yet because we're so busy all the time doing the things we're doing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, my taxes aren't cheap. You know, we pay a lot of taxes on our property. So that's, you know, that's a land patent. Land patent is a pretty awesome thing. Ron Gibson's the guy. I'll get with you later on and I'll give you his contact information. And it probably, his email would be best to distribute, not his phone number. He's just one guy doing this. He's an older guy, and you know, he operates. He's got a lot of people needing help. Yeah, and I know he's backed up quite a bit, but he gets it done. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's I went to a land patent workshop the other day, must have been 2 weeks ago, because I've heard about it, and I'm looking for solutions because when I go to places, wherever I'm going and meeting people, we realize we're the solution guys. So it's like, okay, what's the solution? We can complain about the 1% property tax. Yes.
Yeah. Complaint is like protesting.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is, right? You're not doing anything. Do something to count. Do something that's sustainable. Do something to make it happen.
That's right. That's right. And this is a different mindset, and this is where it's linked to education. Is they taught me to be an employee, a complainer, a whiner, a consumer, a clerk, and not a action taker, builder, leader, communicator, all these things. And so this is what so many families are pulling their kids out for. But to have a solution for the property tax is a big deal. I interviewed Jackie Fig before she passed on, rest in paradise, sister. But one of her ideas, and she was doing this stuff, is to like put the house, the property, or your car in a church, a 508c1a. Is that related to the PMA, or have you come across the what's called the mandatory exception to the tax, or mandatory exception, not an exemption, exception to taxation, the 508c1a? Have you come across that, or any thoughts on it, or any angle?
I've helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people obtain that. Yeah, with a private membership association. And so in my viewpoint and my experience today in operating a PMA, and making it basically a 508c1a. So the 508c1a is a mandatory exception that's in the tax code. So you go down the 50 tax status codes, because the 501, the 503, those are just tax statuses, right? That's all they are, is a status. It's not an entity. The entity is the corporation that holds it, that holds that status. So what's really cool about the 508c1a is it's a mandatory exception. It's been accepted from the rule, and they have no control. They don't have the ability to give it to you or take it away. Pardon me. Just getting over a cold.
Yeah, no problem. Take a drink if you need.
Yeah, I wish I had some water in here. I forgot to bring it in, but we'll survive.
We can pause if you want.
So with the mandatory exception, they don't have the right to take it or give it away, or give it to you or take it away. So they have no control of it, other than a 14-point criteria list that they've created. The IRS has created for you to adhere to. Super simple. Inside the PMAs that we do, I write an ecclesiastical document for those that want to be a church, and 6 of those points are taken care of, and then you just need 3 more. Only 9 are needed, not 14, just 9. And the other 3, they kind of fall in together with themselves, all as being, it's basically the one thing that covers all 3 other items. Excuse me. So the 508c1a is an amazing vehicle. Amazing status to run with a vehicle of a PMA, to operate a business, a brick and mortar business. Typically don't recommend it for a non-brick and mortar business unless you're doing medical stuff or something else that needs to be protected, which then it helps, and there's a reason for it. I don't recommend everybody has a PMA. I don't recommend everybody has a 508, right? I go and I look at what you have, what you want to accomplish, and the goals that you have in there. The majority of the PMAs we put in place need to have a private trust associated with it, and actually own the PMA. And we build private trusts. They're private, natural, common law, irrevocable trust. Lack of better, too many words, but irrevocable is the main important point in that. And then it can own assets. It can own your PMA as an asset. It can operate all those things. There are also non-taxable, non-reportable entities. The PMA ran as a 508c1a as a non-taxable, non-reportable entity. If you think about a true pass-through LLC, a dual member LLC, because single members aren't pass-through. So you got a dual member LLC, which is a real pass-through. So what happens with that? And what that means is that you make all the money you want to during the year, and there's no taxes on the LLC at all. The only time there's a taxable event is if you pay a taxable entity. So you as a person or another business or another person are all taxable entities. So when that money transfers from the PMA over to, or I mean, I'm sorry, we're talking about the LLC. When it transfers over from the LLC to a taxable entity, that's when the tax is due. Until then, there's no tax. So that's a corporate United States entity, LLC, dual member, that acts the same way as a PMA would be as a church-based PMA. So it's a non-taxable, non-reportable entity. But now the benefit of that is now you don't have to go do a CPA event. There's no CPA event, and then there's no filing. So that covers that piece of it there. It works great. The only time that there's gonna be a taxable event is when you pay somebody, a taxable entity, money out of the PMA, and that's when the tax is collected at that point in time, when it goes down to that individual person or business. So that's what protects that part of it. The PMA aspect of it is where most of the protections are from. And that's what protects you from jurisdiction, from allowing the public jurisdiction to, basically interfere with the private jurisdiction. Yeah, so that's how it works, and that's why it works, is because of the protections of Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, right? We're allowed to have unlimited private business transactions, period, contracts, private business contracts, without the interference of our neighbor and or our state. So that's how those work. The majority of PMAs out there in process, depending on how they're operated, should have a trust associated with it. Like we talked about, the trust should own the PMA. So going back to what Jackie was talking about and the way that you operate it. So one of the things I don't recommend, and I don't even do this myself, is I don't recommend that you take and you have your business. Pardon me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
I had to go pick up my son at school, and I had the key in my pocket. So what we do is, and what she kind of talked about, and some people actually do this, and I highly recommend not doing this, is having your PMA own property. And then I'll explain why. A PMA is not, in the government's mind, a legitimate protection like an LLC or a corporation would be. There's no protection in it. So it's just like you owning that asset yourself as a person.
Sole proprietorship.
A sole proprietor, so as an individual person. So you own that asset as you. So like for my property here, let's say I had my PMA, the Renegade Ranch, own our property, and it's the Renegade Ranch. It is a church. And then we go to the county and we file, and we could fight them and sue them to remove it from the tax bill and all those things. It could all work. It could happen.
Yeah.
However, there's no protection in my property at that point in time. And if somebody sues me for anything at all as a person, they can come after my ranch. There's no protection. Like if you owned it with an LLC or a corporation, they sue me as a person, they can't really touch it as the corporation or LLC. And then inside of a trust, when I say they can't really, they can, in both, depending on how things happen, and the LLC's limited liability, right? And so there's limits, so people can get inside that. The corporation is still pierceable. You can still do things in there. There's still things that can happen inside of a private irrevocable trust. There is the protection that nobody can touch, right? So as a person, so that's where I recommend you own your property. Yeah, and then I would do the land patent rather than saying it's a church building, and then the 508c1a is how you should operate your PMA. So instead of having the property owned, it's just one more thing. It has to happen, and it would, but I just think the liability is too great for me to own my properties inside the church with a PMA, because somebody could come and take it, and in the trust they can't touch it.
Got it. So you say the trust should own the PMA, and then you put the property into the trusts?
That's correct. The trust owns, so like all of our modalities are owned by our trust. Everybody I set up a trust for in a PMA when they have modalities are owned by their trust. And then what happens even with a property? So we have a lease agreement with our trust, to us as a person. I mean, as to the PMA. So the
Mm-hmm.
PMA leases the property from the trust.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that liability separation. Right. And then also with our equipment, all of our equipment is owned by the trust, and then we lease our equipment. So the equipment's not owned by the PMA. So if somebody comes in and says, oh, I'm going to sue you. And then they're looking at my assets as the PMA. Well, I'm going to sue you for this amount, this. Say, well, sorry, Joe, we don't own those things. We lease those. Right. So that's how you operate in conjunction with the two different entities. To be able to stay away and to be able to protect yourselves 100%.
Yeah. That's amazing. So the grocery store and the gym is owned by the trust.
Yeah, so that the property is owned by the trust. The whole property and all of its assets are owned by the trust, right? The whole real property and the land, all owned by the trust. And then the trust has a lease agreement with the PMA, with the healing hub. So with the healing hub, and then also with the grocery store. And then and with Vanessa and I, we don't own anything. The trust owns it all.
Right. Yeah, this is the philosophy of own nothing and control everything.
Warren Buffett, right? Probably 5 years ago, I heard him on an interview saying, I own nothing, but I control everything. And then about a month ago now, I heard him on another interview. This guy goes, hey, Warren, what are you worth today? And he looked at him, and he snickered, and he goes, I'm not worth anything. And he goes, what are you talking about? You own Berkshire Hathaway. And he goes, I don't own Berkshire Hathaway, because Berkshire Hathaway is owned by a trust. He goes, I happen to be the trustee and I'm in control of that trust, but I don't own anything. Right. And that's exactly it. You know what is a joke, and it cracks me up. I have clients that I work with, and it's a shame. And I hear this over and over and over. You should really have a trust. I tell them, and so do you own your home? Yes. Do you have any other assets? Yes. They lay it out for me. And I said, well, you need to have your stuff in a trust. She goes, well, I asked my attorney about that. And the attorneys, they say that unless I have like $15 million worth of assets, I shouldn't have a trust. It's like, all right, you're being serious right now. So you don't like your stuff enough to put it in a trust? Yeah. That's just absurd to put a dollar amount. If you own $100,000 home and you don't want somebody to come and sue you to take it away, put it in a trust. It's just absurd. Trusts are so cheap. And then obviously you got to look at, okay, this is an attorney that works for a trust attorney, right? And they work for a trust company or whatever. And their trusts are, basically $30,000 to $50,000. Yeah. Mine are $3,000. Yeah. Right. And they're as powerful as theirs are, if not even better. Because they're private. Theirs are statutory. So a lot of difference, just unbelievable amount of flexibility in a private trust. Yeah, and the protection in it is amazing. Yeah, even compared to most trusts. And then also people, 99% of people say, well, I already have a trust. And then I say, okay, well, tell me about it a little bit. And I ask them, are you the grantor? And they go, yep, I'm the grantor. And are you the beneficiary? Yep, I'm the beneficiary. I'm not a beneficiary. Are you the trustee? Yeah, I'm the trustee. And I go, okay, well, then it's not irrevocable. No, my attorney said it was irrevocable. He said, no, if you're the grantor and the benefit and the trustee in that situation where you're the sole, or you and your wife are both trustees, then it's it's a revocable trust, and it's either a family or a living trust, which 90% of the trusts that are out there are going to be that way. And they're great for their situation, which is basically it's a map. It's a map of what happens when you die, who gets what, where, when, and how. And it keeps you out of probate. Right. And that's what it's designed for. That's what it does. And it's great for that. But that's all it does. And it doesn't protect your property. And people say, well, I put my property in the name of that trust. Okay, well, that's great. But it still doesn't protect it. Right. It still can be sold. If you get sued, the judge can order it to be opened up and sold, period. You have no control of that, where you can't do that in irrevocable trust. As long as it's functioned properly, as long as it's set up properly and you do all the things that are correct in it, then you're protected. So those are the amazing things that we can do with trust today.
Wow. So that's the distinction, because I always hear different angles, right? As you mentioned, the attorney has this recommendation, or that one is revocable, irrevocable. But I have heard that a couple of times, that the irrevocable is superior. And like you said, is that because it can't be breached, or it can't be seized or sued, what's the quick you summary? You kind of gave it, but just for the slow people
Sure.
out here like us.
So basically this trust hasn't been pierced. It's probably 400 years old. In this type of, non-statutory trust in the private. They're impenetrable. They have not been breached. They're bulletproof. All those things are all accounted inside of it. It covers all the bases in it. And it lasts the test of time. It's there and it continues to operate. And it will for, many, many more hundreds of years, right?
Right.
What's neat about it, the trust, is some people say, well, some people are scared off at first because of the word irrevocable.
Yeah.
And they think that if they put their asset, I put my home in that trust and then I can never sell it. Well, in the traditional way that a trust is set up for the grantor, and as a grantor, you put your stuff into the trust and you set it up with that, then you're correct. You don't have the opportunity to sell it. Can it be sold? Yeah, absolutely. Who sells it? The trustees do. And this is my issue with an old school type trust, is where, you're basically putting your trust into the trust of other people to operate for you. Your assets are in there. And then you have no more control of it. So basically the real thing that's irrevocable in a trust situation, in an irrevocable trust, is that the grantor irrevocably gives everything away in the trust to the trustees to operate inside the trust. So they have no more power of that. They have no more ability to do anything. They have no more control of it. And that's what makes it a real irrevocable trust. That's why it's protected from the courts from being sold, and assets removed from it, because it's irrevocable. And then they have no ownership. The grantor truly has no ownership, control of the rights of what's in the property and the trust anymore. They can't make him sell it because he doesn't own it, can't control it. And that's the strength of an irrevocable trust. You can buy and sell properties in and out of a trust all day long. Not as the grantor, but as the trustees, right? So that's how it happens. You can put stuff in. The trustees are allowed, can make, changes in the trust, in the directives, the way things are set up to be done. There are some things that you can't change, and it goes through all the trust rules and the things that a trustees can do. It's pretty intensive. And it's pretty cool how basically workable a real good trust is today, and the different ways you can make it operate. I have people with many properties in their trust. They have multiple trusts. They have a lot of properties, and they're all they're basically rentals. And then because it's non-taxable, non-reportable, they rent their properties out. They have a PMA that is the property manager. And then, so they have a lease agreement between the trust and the PMA. And then the PMA leases them out to the tenants. The tenants pay the rent back to the PMA. The PMA gives the money back to the trust, and it's all done non-taxed. Right. And then when they have enough money, then they just go buy another property, non-taxed, because the trust doesn't have to pay any taxes. There's no taxable event. The money only gets taxed when it goes to a taxable event, and the trust is a non-taxable event. So that's how we create, wealth faster. Now, that's one of the things that, the wealthy, the elite, they call themselves, they're self-elite, right? That they don't want us to know those things, right? Because it creates power for us. It puts us in a position of power, and it puts us in a position of independence and without control. And that's, they like the control more than anything, including money. Their primary thing is control, not money. They know the money will come with the control, but their primary purpose is to control.
Right.
And that's why Rockefeller first lent money to the King of England, right? Not to make that interest off there. He wanted that too, but he wanted control. He wanted control of the king. He wanted control of England, and he got it.
Right. Now, that was great summary. Thank you. I'm going to go back and watch this. This is such good information. If somebody has a house that's paid off, can they put it in an irrevocable trust, or is it a easy transfer, of title or deed, or is it even relevant there? Like this thing that the house is paid off, and now they want to, like, the house is in their name, and now they want to put it in a trust. Can they do that, or is that
super simple, David? And it doesn't need to be paid off either. So it can have a mortgage on it. It can be paid off either way. It doesn't matter at all. And basically what you do is you do a quit claim deed on it. That's quit, Q-U-I-T, claim deed. And then you transfer it from your name into the name of the trust. And basically you just fill out the quit claim deed. You go to the county and you record it, and it's done. It's in the trust name now. and it's owned by the trust. It's that simple.
Wow. So because that's where the property's registered at the county. So you go there and give them this quit claim deed, and it just transfers from the person's name to the name of their trust.
That's correct. Yep.
Amazing.
It's a very simple process.
Yeah. And then when you mentioned like the trust and owns the PMA, do they have different EIN numbers too? Like different entities?
Yep. You bet.
Yeah.
And if some people say, well, I already have a trust and I don't need another EIN. It's like, well, your trust is a revocable, and you do need another EIN because you're going to change them over there. And just like when you have a PMA, every entity needs its own new EIN. Just because you already have an EIN with an LLC or corporation, you don't transfer it over to your new entity. You just get a new EIN number for that entity. So
yeah.
Because you want a bank account in the trust and the PMA. If you don't need a bank account for either one, neither one of them need an EIN. Right. If you do everything cash inside of your PMA and you're cash 100%, don't get an EIN. You don't need one.
Yeah. So how does that work with, like, say the properties that say you heard of like a 1031 exchange? So are the 1031 exchanges for the persons and the entities, or the citizens versus trusts?
A 1031 exchange is just it's a way not to have to pay capital gains tax when you move a property from one property to the next. So you sell a property, and let's say you sell a property for $1 million, and you do a 1031 into a property that's 800,000, then you would have a $200,000 liability, right? Depending on what your capital gain was. Let's say you own it cash, you bought it for $1, you sold it for $1 million, right? So there's that capital gain in between. So that's what we're trying to get away from.
Yeah.
And with a 1031 exchange. However, today with a revocation of election, you don't even need that, right? Because a revocation of election takes and it eliminates you as a taxpayer. So no more tax paying whatsoever. It completely removes your necessity to be paying any tax whatsoever. So you and I, as free Americans, right? We took, and we as children were duped into basically signing a 1040 and then sending it into the IRS. The first jobs we had, they always made us do a W-4, and the W-4 basically, tells you, it gives the authority for your employer to remove taxes from your check, right? How many dependents you have, all these different things that ask you, and then they tax you according to how much money you make and how many deductions you have, right? How many dependents. So with that, it's when you sign that and you send it in, you actually unknowingly, and it says it right in the IRC 26 tax code, that you elected to pay taxes. So before that point in time, you were a non-taxpayer. I was a non-taxpayer. And we joined the tax system. We were duped into it because we put in that document, that 1040, right? So we put it through, and that election to pay taxes made us a taxpayer, made us a 1040 subscriber for the rest of our life until we die and or quit working, right? So every subsequent year from that first 1040 that went through, you're required to put in another 1040. And if you don't, that's how the IRS comes and gets you, because you didn't put in that 1040. And they don't get you because you didn't pay taxes, because until you put in 1040, you don't owe any taxes, right? So there's nothing owed, but the 1040 made that they wanted to see. And if you lie in the 1040 when you get it, and that's fraud, then they can get you that way. But they get most people by not putting in that 1040, by not electing, not putting in that 1040 and saying what you did or what you didn't do. So we go back and we do what's called a revocation of election, and we rescind that first contract. And we rescind it for a couple of different reasons. And one of them is basically breach of contract because there wasn't full disclosure in a contract, and we call them out on it in the documents we created. We have a 21-page document we send out to 5 different locations. We put them on notice. First of all, we ask them a question. Basically show me the law that states where, we have to pay taxes. Show it to me. And then the second part of it is, oh, by the way, you breached the contract. And then the third part of it is, by the way, we rescinded our contract with you and we're no longer a taxpayer. And we put it in. That's the revocation of election. When it goes in the letters that I've received, I've got a friend that's been doing this for 30 years. He's got 15 full-time employees. He's done tens of thousands of these. Nobody pays taxes. He guarantees it because he knows that no one's ever going to have to come against this guarantee. and he does a lot of people. I've only been doing it for about a year or so, a little bit over a year. And I don't have 10,000 people yet, or tens of thousands of people, but it's growing crazy every single week. But the thing is that, let me read a couple different documents to you here really quick.
Yeah.
And this is what we're getting back from basically from the IRS in reference to the revocation of election that we put through. The first one so to start off, most people don't get anything back at all. I've never received anything back
from the IRS.
Yeah, most people don't. But the first letter that people do when they do get it is it's eye-opening, because there's a lot of uncertainty with people, even though we've confirmed that this is what they're going to get back. And I tell everybody now, this is the letter you're going to get back. So now today, when they get this back, they're not that surprised. It says, thank you for your inquiry. It says, we're working on your account. However, we need an additional 60 days to send you a complete response on what action we're taking on your account. We don't need anything further from information from you right now. If you want to write us, include this letter. If you want to call us. And it says, thank you for your cooperation. That's the first letter that they get. So basically saying, okay, we need 60 days to tell you what we're going to do. And then time goes by, and there wasn't quite 60 days for this person. And we've got a bunch of people now that have these letters. And it says, dear taxpayer. And right away, I told her, I said, well, if I received this letter, the first thing I would have done is I would have turned it around and sent it back to him and told him, oh, by the way, I'm not a taxpayer. Don't call me taxpayer, because I'm not. Don't call me dear taxpayer. I am a non-taxpayer. So if you want to address me correctly, say dear non-taxpayer. Right. So in this letter, which, obviously they'll never do that. That'd be like the apology from the district attorney, right? It says, it says, thank you for your cooperation, which we received. We reviewed the information you provided and determined no action is necessary on your account.
Wow.
And then it goes through, if you want to write us, send up a copy of the letter. If you want to call us, this is our phone number. It says, keep a copy of this letter for your records. Thank you for your cooperations. Sincerely yours, Nancy Stevens, Department Manager, Accounts Management.
Wow.
From the IRS. Simple. And I've got a bunch of these back. I actually got one back the other day, and I need to find it again and print it out. Now, I want to put these on my website. And this one says, thank you for your revocation of election. It actually said that on it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So we were talking about this the other day, was like with my friends, is that so there's this database where they have, and I don't know if you know about Freedom Law School and Payman Mojahede, but I saw some of his,
a friend of mine, you bet.
Yeah. And so I saw some of his material. I went and stayed over there a couple of years ago, and he gave me his material, and there's like 80 million Americans don't file taxes, right? And he showed me some internal document, because he's got some inside sources, the IRS too. And he said they're no longer going after non-filers because it's hard to get money from non-filers. We got to go after the people that file, because those people believe in the legitimacy of what we're doing, and they're going to give us our money.
Yeah,
that's a summary of it. But is that been your experience? Is that they're starting to realize that people are waking up to the fraud of the income tax?
Yeah, I do. I truly believe that. And that's why we don't have any pushback on the revocation of election. I've not seen it. When I travel, I always ask people, hey, if you've ever had anything come back to you, let me know that's other than what I talk about. And put it out to your group, man. If anybody's ever had any experience at all, I want to know about it. Because then I can talk about it and we can figure out the root cause and what happened. But this is what I believe is only happening. Payment, he guarantees his up to $1 million. He wouldn't do that if he knew that he was going to have to pay it, because he knows that it doesn't have to, that nothing's happening. They don't do anything. They understand that you've rescinded your contract. You're out of contract. You're not in, you became a taxpayer by signing it. It says it in the IRC 26. You became a contract. You became in contract when you put in the 1040. You elected to become a taxpayer. So that's right. Our only taxpayers are people who live in Washington, D.C. and federal employers, and people who make money from the federal government. That's a responsibility to pay that too. And they're legitimate taxpayers. Everybody else is not. So pretty crazy.
It's amazing. Yeah,
It
he
is
calls
amazing.
the form 1040 the tax confession form, and it's crazy to read it. And I was really persuaded. He says, I under penalty of perjury, I say that this is accurate, true, and complete information. He says you're binding yourself against this information, and now if you have anything wrong on this,
Yeah.
1040, you've now just incriminated yourself. Like,
Yeah.
why would you confess to these criminals? So this is very very encouraging to see people are starting to um keep their money, and this is your property, this is your life. People trade their time for money, and these people come in here taking 30-40% of their life, and
Oh,
it's
50%.
unacceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful thing that you're doing and shining light upon that so people can hire you. I never heard of the process you explained so clearly, the revocation of election. I've heard of other people talking about it, but I thought they were talking about like voting elections, like they were
Oh, right.
revoking their
Well,
yeah,
that's
their
when like becoming a state national, right? Or,
yeah. What's your take on that?
I love it. I think it's
Yeah.
great. I've been studying for a couple years now. I'm gonna do um, my UCC1 filing to start with, my secured party creditor piece. I'm gonna do that.
Mhm.
And that's just another phase of becoming free, right? And then obviously I'm going to send in my cancellation of my citizenship to the federal government, to the U.S. Secretary of State. I'll send that into, and I'm probably going to do that. Yeah, I'm doing the UCC1 filing first, that part of it, but then the other will probably within a couple months it'll be done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then how was the passport work? Because I've done some paperwork for the SPC,
Mhm.
and I'm still learning too. And it's just like, we need some paperwork, but then to get out of the country into the country, I need a passport. It's like, I don't
Passport's a
know.
pretty simple thing to do, and you get it as a non-resident alien, right? That's the whole
Mhm,
point of it. And then getting that is yeah, it's pretty effective and it's pretty easy
mhm,
to get. So and
mhm,
that's a lot of people start with that before they do anything. They'll do the passport first.
mhm. Yeah, get the passport for their California citizenship or national.
Yeah, it's
There's different angles, right?
yeah. There's, and I'm not completely up to speed on all the different passport things you do. I know that you can get it done, and I've got paperwork to do it.
Hmm.
What it actually does, I haven't got to that part of it yet. So
Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
I've been reading it and looking at it for a couple of years, and I need to jump on it, and just the time requirements and things. That's I always counsel everybody, do everything inside of your pain tolerance, right? Well, my
Yeah.
pain tolerance is time, right? That's the only thing I don't get any more time, and I've got a lot of things, and my family's really important to me. So we spend time with
Absolutely.
our family, and we have other businesses, and they all require time, and the things that we do, and these extra things I do on the extra, and then the time requirements for the Renegade Nation are, that's pretty, I do a lot of stuff with that, and spend a lot of time every day answering emails and writing PMAs and writing trust and writing ROEs and helping people and counseling people. And one of the things that I do that most others don't is that, I did your paperwork for you a couple, 3 years ago, and you got questions and you call me, I actually answer the phone and help you. And
Hmm.
we got, people basically, when I was given my first PMA, I got a few questions answered and then they were gone. They no more. And I've helped so many people that have, these things that they've received, that don't get any help. And then we try to help them from one process or another inside of our organization, of the Renegade Nation. So
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's so important to support the people out there. We've been lied to on so many fronts in so many areas, and to find some solution, it's like because in my homeschooling coaching and my education work, I'm holding parents' hands because they are unaware of some of the discoveries or truths about learning and empowerment and these things, and we only know what we've been taught. So
yeah,
there's
right.
this, like this being patient and being helpful. It's really good that you're helping people because humanity is breaking free, and it's a slow process, but for the children, the grandchildren, like we're going to teach them about self-ownership and natural rights or unalienable rights from God, that we don't
Yeah.
need a middleman. Yeah, we don't need a middleman. We're directly connected to source. And I don't know what you government officials are doing around here, but a lot of people are starting to rise up and find remedies in a peaceful way to keep your livelihood and your property, which you justly and rightfully acquired. And these parasites, God bless them, Sometimes they don't know what they don't know, but some guys are bad actors too. So
Yeah,
I hope to hear about the updates of maybe you suing the DA or whatever it is, but
there
there's
you
so
go.
much to learn from you, Mike, and I appreciate you taking some time. It's a joy to hear all the cool stuff that you're doing. And I can't wait to come visit your gym sometime. Next time I'm down there, I'd
But
love to come take a look, maybe do a little tour of it and show the audience out there, because you're really kind of on the front end of it all, which is we're just gonna build it. We'll figure out the entity stuff, and for the people out there, you can, if you want, you can hire Mike, and he'll help you with some of these services and entities. You can see he's a wealth of knowledge. But it's up to you, mothers and fathers and parents and single people and older, younger people, to take responsibility of life and freedom and your rights and really get into the game somehow. And you don't have to jump 2 feet in like Mike and Vanessa have, but at least put your toe in and start to learn about some of these things. And no one's going to do it for you. I'm glad you brought up the thing about the attorney who charges maybe 30K and you charge 3K, and this other guy who it's like help you learn your process. They sound so high and mighty, but you're just as valuable as these attorneys, and you got to learn, though. You got to take responsibility, and that's what you're doing. And it sounds like you're teaching a lot of people to do that as well. So just in closing here, any final words of encouragement, advice, or anything where you're at? You're doing some really cool stuff. I encourage people to go visit the store or visit the gym. The healing centers are so inspiring too. Any final words to close out, and where can people find you?
no, I appreciate it so much, David. Really do, and I appreciate what you do in your career, in your, I'd say career, but your passion, right? In your
Yeah,
flow in the freedom world, which is amazing, right? And we
thank
need
you.
more, and we need more of all of us, right? We need,
Yeah,
because you're out there doing things, in the voice, as a voice, right? I'm here as a voice too. I get out and I travel around the country and I speak, but your voice is like, that's your primary thing, is your voice and what you're doing, and I commend you for that. It's tough, it's a hard thing to continue to do day in, day out.
yeah.
Yeah, and definitely appreciate it for sure. Yeah,
Mm,
I
thank
thank
you.
you so much for your time. I'd love for everybody and anybody to reach out to the renegadenation.org, and you can contact me through there, the renegadenation.org, and or you can contact me through my email. It's mike@thepmateam.club. So that's Mike at the pmateam.club. Yeah, reach out to me anytime. And I'll help everybody anywhere, anytime come through. So it's kind of cool. We have PMAs and trust and ROEs in other countries.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot that we can do in different places as well. Puerto Rico, got a bunch of stuff in Puerto Rico, which is part of federal territory. Yeah,
Mm,
PMAs are great there. Our trusts work in almost every country across the world.
mm.
In the ROEs basically, those are for here, so they're not out of the country, but they're for the United States. But people that live out of the country that are from here, that have
Yeah.
ROEs from here. So it's pretty cool, see that
Wow.
stuff travel and flow.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being a star out there and shining and helping the people. There's so much to learn and to do. As you say, we have limited time, and we're building intergenerational freedom here. So if you like what Mike's saying, reach out to him, get him on board, and get some services from him. And for all the people out there, thank you for joining us on Voluntary Living, where we are building a world based on self-ownership, freedom, and personal responsibility. And we can't wait to see you on the next show. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, guests and audience out there. You guys have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye.
David, thanks a bunch, man. Have a good day, buddy.
You bet.
Take care.